Lesson 90. Starting the Call. The Secret Preaching of Islam. When the revelation resumed again after its pause, the Prophet, peace be upon him, started to call upon those whom Allah ordered him to, namely all humans and all genies, calling upon them to worship Allah, the glorified and exalted, the one and only, and to reject worshipping anything other than Him, creatures and idols alike. Allah directed His noble messenger, peace be upon him, to start preaching Islam secretly. Thus the Prophet began preaching Islam secretly to those whom he trusted and confided in of his family members and closest relatives and friends, and to his close circle of fellow tribesmen. He persisted on this mission of calling people forth to Allah in secret for 3 years with perseverance, until a few people believed in him. They used to pray and carry out their religious practices in secret, hiding from others, not publicizing their religion in front of the people of Quraysh, to the extent that they even had to practice their religion in hiding from their own family members and children. When their number became almost 30, and had to summon with the Prophet, peace be upon him, to receive guidance and learn from him, the Prophet chose a big house which belonged to one of the men called Al-Arqam ibn Al-Arqam. They used to meet there, and little by little they increased in number until Allah ordered the Prophet, peace be upon him, to preach his mission publicly. The reason of inviting people to Islam secretly. When the angel Gabriel, first descended with the revelation of the Quran on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, towards the end of the month of Ramadan, in the year he turned 40 years of age, in the cave of Hira, in which he used to meditate, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was not ordered at that time to fulfill the mission and deliver Allah's message to the people. But the matter was limited to Jibril's delivery of Allah's message to him, the Prophet, and to the glorification of Allah with what appears in the Surat Al-Alaq, which can be translated as, "Read, in the name of your Lord who created man from alaq, a clinging mass leech-like clot. Read, and your Lord is the most honourable who taught by the pen. He taught man what he did not know." Then, after the revelation ceased for a period of time, it came back with Allah's order to preach and deliver his message. The people of Makkah, to whom the Prophet, peace be upon him, was sent, were rough and snobbish people. Among them were those who served the Kaaba, the place of worship which Allah commanded the prophets Abraham and Ismail to build on the foundations that Adam laid down, and in which direction all Muslims pray and to which Muslims go for pilgrimage, who had its keys in their possession and took care of the idols that were sacred among all Arabs, whom they worshipped and to whom they offered sacrifices and gifts. The people of Mecca knew nothing of what was revealed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and were of characters that would not come to believe in him easily. Therefore, it was from Allah's wisdom to have the preaching of the Islamic religion in its onset in secret, so as not to surprise the Arabs with what would aggravate them and would cause them to reject the religion and be a cause for assaults, wars, and bloodshed. Moreover, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had no adherents or supporters at the time when the mission was in secret, and since Allah always ascribes reasons to causes, he did not order his Prophet, peace be upon him, to preach the mission publicly before preparing for him the causes of victory over his opponents in this matter, especially since his people to whom he was sent were the most attached people to the idols they worshipped and to their ancestors' beliefs. It is well known that among people there are those who are highly regarded and of high esteem among their people, and there are those who are not. The former people's pride prevents them from responding to whoever calls upon them to desert whatever their people believe in and to deny their ethnic ties and deeply rooted traditions. This is because each of them thinks that his lone submission to others weakens his position in the perspective of his people. Thus, if these highly regarded people are faced with a sudden declaration of a call that conflicts with what they believe in, they would make sure to appear to deny and resist the call as a whole. Moreover, those who are neither highly regarded nor noble are followers of the leaders and nobles, and if asked publicly to reject these nobles' way, they would not find the courage to follow the preacher as long as none of the nobles preceded them to it. Accordingly, the public declaration of the mission needs a prelude to pave the way for both parties. This can only be achieved through secretly attracting members of both parties, so that when they have formed a decent-sized group through which the mission gets declared and preached in public, it would be easy for others to reject their people's traditions and follow what the preachers call for, of what their hearts accept and their instincts do not reject. The earlier Muslims. The first person to be called forth to Islam was Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and it is almost agreed upon by scholars that she was the first to embrace Islam. Moreover, it is also well known that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was the first to embrace Islam among the men, Ali ibn Abu Talib among the boys, and Zayd ibn Haritha among the slaves. After Khadija, Ali ibn Abu Talib, the Prophet's cousin, embraced Islam at the age of 10. He used to live with the Prophet, peace be upon him. When the time for prayer came, the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to accompany Ali secretly to the mountain passes of Mecca to pray and then come back as quietly as they left. Once, Abu Talib, the Prophet's uncle, saw them praying and asked the Prophet, "O nephew, what is this new religion that I see that you have embraced?" He replied, "O uncle, this is Allah's religion, His angels' religion, His messenger's religion, and our father Ibrahim's religion. Allah has sent me as a messenger to deliver it to the people, and you, uncle, is the one who is most deserving of my advice and of my guidance to embrace the true religion, and the one who should embrace it and help me with it the most." Abu Talib replied, "O my nephew, I cannot abandon my ancestors' religion." However, he consented that his son, Ali, could follow this religion and promised the Prophet, peace be upon him, to protect and help him. Then Zayd ibn Haritha embraced Islam. He was the Prophet's waiting boy, whom the Prophet freed, then adopted, and let him marry Ayman, who was among the first people to embrace Islam. Then Abu Bakr as-Siddiq embraced Islam. He was a friend of the Prophet, peace be upon him, before prophethood, and knew of his honesty. So when the Prophet informed him of his message, Abu Bakr believed him immediately and said, "I sacrifice my mother and father's life for you. You are trustworthy, and I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that you are His messenger." The Prophet, peace be upon him, said about him, "Everyone I called forth to Islam initially faltered and hesitated, with the exception of Abu Bakr. He was an honourable man, whose opinion was trusted by his people. He therefore preached Islam to those whom he felt would accept it. like Uthman ibn Affan, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Sa'd ibn Abu Waqqas, Zubair ibn ul-Awwam, and Talha ibn Ubaidullah, all of whom Abu Bakr brought to meet with the Prophet, peace be upon him, and they all embraced Islam. Then Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn ul-Jarrah, Ubaidah ibn ul-Harith ibn Abdul Muttalib, Sa'id ibn Zayd al-Adawi, Abu Salama al-Makhzumi, Khalid ibn Said ibn ul-As, Uthman ibn Mad'un and his two brothers Qudama and Ubaidullah, and Al-Arqam ibn al-Arqam, all were Qurayshites. Also others like Suhaib al-Rumi, Ammar ibn Yasir, Abu Dar al-Ghifari, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and others embraced Islam. The secret preaching of Islam lasted for 3 years, during which a group of nobles from Quraysh embraced Islam, followed by others, until the news about Islam spread all over Makkah and people talked about it. At that point, the time had come for Islam to be preached publicly. The commencement of public preaching of Islam. After almost 3 years of secret preaching, many people embraced Islam, nobles and slaves, men and women. The news about Islam spread all over Mecca, and people started to talk about it. Thus Allah ordered the Prophet, peace be upon him, to start preaching Islam publicly, and revealed unto him what can be translated as, "So profess openly what you have been commanded, and veer away from the associators, those who associate others with Allah." Therefore the Prophet, peace be upon him, complied with Allah's order and preached Allah's religion among his people. It is reported on the authority of Ibn Abbas that the Prophet climbed the hill of Safa and summoned the Qurayshites to assemble. When they were assembled, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "If I were to inform you that there were horsemen coming to assail you out of the foot of this mountain, would you believe me?" They said, "We have not experienced any lie from you." He said, "I am a warner to you in the face of terrible punishment." Hearing that, Abu Lahab, the Prophet's uncle, stood up and said, "May you perish! Is it for this purpose you have gathered us?" In response, Allah revealed the following Quranic verses about Abu Lahab, saying what can be translated as, "Perish the hands of Abu Lahab," that is, be cut off, "and likewise perish he. In no way did his wealth avail him, neither whatever he earned, he will be roasted at a flaming fire. And his wife, the constant bearer of firewood, upon her neck she will have a rope of palm fibers." Abu Lahab's wife used to spread rumors and lies about the Prophet, peace be upon him, among her fellow women, causing great strife. Allah afterwards revealed the following Quranic verses that can be translated as, "And warn your kinsman, the nearest kin." Therefore the Prophet, peace be upon him, gathered from his clan of Banu Abd Manaf about 40 men, and told them, "I have never heard of a man who brought his people something better than what I am bringing you. I have brought you the bounties of life and the hereafter. Allah has ordered me to call on you to worship him, and I swear by Allah that if I would lie to all people, I would never lie to you, and if I deceived all people, I would never deceive you. I swear by Allah, the one and only God, that I am indeed his messenger to you in particular, and to the whole world in general. By Allah, you will die just like you sleep, and you will be resurrected just like you wake up, and you will be accounted for what you do, and you will be rewarded for the good deeds and punished for the bad deeds. It is either eternal paradise or eternal hell. The people started conversing calmly with the Prophet, peace be upon him, but Abu Lahab stood up and said, "He has bewitched you. Fight him before the rest of the Arabs follow him." Yet Abu Talib stopped him, and the gathering was dismissed. Quraysh complains from being demeaned and their idols insulted. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, first started announcing his call towards Allah and his monotheism, he did not face any resistance or harm from his people. Yet, amongst themselves, they did deny the truth of his message, and they used to say, "Here's the son of Abu Kabsha, who claims to be receiving a message from heaven. Here's the son of Abdul Muttalib, who claims to be receiving a message from heaven." That was all it amounted to in the beginning. Abu Kabsha was a nickname for the husband of Halima as-Sa'diyah, the Prophet's wet nurse. At that time, a wet nurse was regarded as the mother and her husband was regarded as the father. Their intention from all this was to reduce the Prophet's dignity. As the da'wah implied, ensuing insults on their idols and demeaning those who worshipped them, the people started hating the Prophet out of fervour over their own idols that were worshipped by their ancestors. Some of them went to his uncle Abu Talib, and they asked him to stop his nephew from insulting their idols, faulting their fathers and demeaning their minds. If not, then he should give up protecting him. Abu Talib refused their plea politely and sent them away. The Prophet, peace be upon him, kept calling towards Allah, spreading his message and warning the people against worshipping idols. At that they could not tolerate it any more, and they returned to Abu Talib saying, "We have asked you to stop your nephew, yet he kept on doing what he was doing. We can't take this anymore. We can't accept having our idols insulted, our minds demeaned, and our fathers being called misguided. So either you stop him, or we fight him, and you for that until either one of the two sides perishes." This was too much for Abu Talib, and he did not like to be an enemy of his own people, nor did he like to leave his nephew unsupported. So he decided to talk to the Prophet, peace be upon him, who in turn replied, "O uncle, by Allah, if they place the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand to leave this cause, I would never do it until Allah has made it victorious, or I perish for its cause." Abu Talib then replied, "Then go and say whatever you wish. I will never abandon you." Abu Talib then thought to gather Banu Hashim and Banu al-Muttalib so they would protect his nephew. They all affirmed his call, except Abu Lahab, who left them and joined the disbelievers of Quraysh. The people of Quraysh saw how persistent Abu Talib was to protect the Prophet, and how Banu Hashim and Banu al-Muttalib had both backed him in this. They also found that the Hajj season was approaching, and they feared lest the Prophet's call would affect the Arabs coming to visit the Kaaba, and hence he would become stronger, and his call would spread. All of this led them to meet and discuss how they would combat this cause. One of them said, "Let us say that he is a fortune teller." Another replied, "He is not like any other fortune teller we know of." One said, "Let us say that he is crazy." Another replied, "He is not crazy. We know what crazy people are, and he is not like any of them." One said, "Let us say he is a poet." The other replied, "He's no poet. We all know about poetry, and he is not a poet." One said, "Let us say he is a magician." The other replied, "We know magicians, and he is not like any of them." Finally they agreed to spread the word among the worshippers coming for Hajj, that he was a magician who came with some magical spells to separate the father from his son, the brother from his brother, the man from his wife, and the individual from his tribe. They used to sit in every alley during the Hajj, not letting a person by without warning him against the Prophet, peace be upon him. This was, however, one of the main reasons of the Prophet, peace be upon him, becoming very famous, and his name rang out all around the Arab lands.